Broadway musical spectacular? Bill, wow. I mean, I knew you were smart, but I think you're a
Graced magazine covers and bedroom walls around the globe appeared on screens during Bill Nye's Earth Day special, but it was almost unrecognizable. The jaw had expanded dramatically. The features had shifted into something foreign. The transformation was undeniable and deeply unsettling. Zac Efron, Hollywood's golden boy, the heartthrob who defined an entire generation, looked like a completely different person. His appearance had morphed into something that sparked immediate concern and curiosity across the internet. Within hours, the digital world exploded into chaos. Social media platforms erupted with speculation. Theories emerged from every corner of the internet. Memes flooded timelines. What happened to Zac Efron's face? The question echoed across continents. The answer, as it turns out, may reveal far more about Hollywood's dark machinery and the impossible standards it imposes than anyone could have imagined. This is a story about beauty, obsession, and the devastating price of fame. The heartthrob years. To understand the transformation that shocked millions, we must first journey back to where it all began, to a time before the fame, before the pressure, before everything changed. Zac Efron was not born into Hollywood royalty. He did not grow up on film sets or attend exclusive industry parties. He was simply a young boy with an undeniable passion for performing and parents who believed deeply in nurturing that dream. From an early age, the signs were unmistakably there. Natural talent that could not be taught. Undeniable charisma that drew people toward him. A spark in his eyes that could not be ignored. His parents made the conscious decision to enroll him in local theater productions and singing lessons, standing in audiences watching as their son honed skills that would one day captivate millions across the world. By the time most teenagers were worried about homework, dating, and weekend plans, Zac had already appeared in television movies and secured guest roles on various shows. His recurring role on the series Summerlin marked him as someone to watch, someone with genuine potential. But even then, even with the taste of success, acting was not his primary goal. Zac was a dedicated student, achieving excellent grades with solid plans to attend college. Perhaps he would have become a doctor, as he once earnestly imagined. Perhaps he would have lived a completely different life. But fate, as it often does, had other plans entirely. In 2006, everything changed in ways nobody could have predicted. Disney Channel released what seemed at the time like a modest original movie called High School Musical. Zac played Troy Bolton, a basketball star secretly passionate about singing, torn between the expectations of his peers and his genuine love for music. It was a simple premise, almost cliché in its setup. But the impact was absolutely seismic. Nearly 8 million viewers tuned in for the premiere. The soundtrack became one of the top-selling albums in the United States that year. The breakout track, Breaking Free, climbed to number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100. Overnight, seemingly without warning, Zac Efron became a household name. The phenomenon only grew stronger with each passing month. Disney, recognizing the goldmine they had stumbled upon, doubled down on the franchise, releasing 2 sequels that each shattered the previous film's numbers. By the time High School Musical 3 hit theaters in 2008, it was no longer just a movie. It was a cultural movement that transcended entertainment. And at the center of it all stood Zac, his face plastered on posters in bedrooms around the world, his name chanted by screaming fans at every public appearance. To millions of teenage girls around the globe, he was not just an actor. He was the living definition of the perfect boy next door. Handsome, charming, wholesome, seemingly untouchable. But fame, as Zac would soon discover in the harshest possible way, came with invisible chains. The very qualities that made him a star were also quietly building the walls of his prison. Trapped in the Image in 2007, Zac starred in Hairspray, a musical set in the vibrant 1960s that tackled themes of racial segregation alongside upbeat musical numbers and colorful choreography. He played Link Larkin, a popular singer with Elvis-inspired styling and a heart of gold. On the surface, the role appeared refreshingly different from Troy Bolton. The time period had shifted backward. The styling was new and retro. The music had a different flavor. But beneath the costume and choreography, beneath the surface, level differences, The character was essentially the same. Another heartthrob. Another wholesome teenage dream. Another version of what had already been proven to sell tickets. Director Adam Shankman initially hesitated to cast Zac, genuinely concerned that his Disney image might clash with the film's more serious undertones about race and acceptance. But the promise of capturing a massive teenage audience, of tapping into the High School Musical fan base, was too lucrative to resist. Zac got the part, and the movie became another commercial success. Yet the pattern was now becoming increasingly clear to anyone paying attention. Hollywood was not interested in seeing Zac Efron the actor. They wanted Zac Efron the image, the product, the guaranteed box office draw. The cycle continued relentlessly with 17 Again, where Zac played the younger version of a man who magically transforms back into his teenage body. No songs this time, but everything else remained depressingly familiar. High school hallways, a flashy car, the same effortless charm that had made him famous. By this point, Zac was beginning to express genuine frustration in interviews. He spoke earnestly about seeking new challenges and stepping outside the teen heartthrob box that was suffocating him. But the industry was not listening. They had no reason to change the formula. The way people talked to him in public revealed everything about how he was perceived. Interviewers rarely asked thoughtful questions about his craft or his ambitions as an artist. Instead, they fixated obsessively on his appearance, questions about his hair styling routine, comments about his body and physique. Older women openly flirting with him on camera, making him visibly uncomfortable while he tried to maintain professionalism. When he took off his shirt in 17 Again, audiences reportedly gasped audibly in theaters. The moment became a major talking point, overshadowing any discussion of his actual performance or character development. One particular interview captured the reality perfectly, exposing the trap he was caught in. When asked if he felt pressured to break free from being typecast, Zac responded earnestly and passionately about wanting to take on new challenges and prove himself as a serious actor. The interviewer's response was dismissive, skeptical that he could ever be seen as anything more than the pretty boy from High School Musical. The subtext was clear: stick to what you know. Deep down, in a place he probably did not want to acknowledge, Zac knew they were right. The industry had made its decision about who he was allowed to be. The failed escape attempt determined to prove himself and break free from the constraints. Zac made calculated, strategic decisions to distance himself from his teen idol image. He turned down the remake of Footloose, despite the obvious commercial appeal, recognizing it as another musical that would keep him trapped in the same exhausting cycle. He actively sought out more mature, dramatic roles that would showcase his range and depth as a performer, roles that had nothing to do with singing or high school romance. In 2010, he starred in Charlize, Cloud, playing a young man grieving the tragic loss of his little brother and struggling with survivor's guilt. Then came The Lucky One, where he portrayed Logan Thibault, a U.S. Marine who survives the horrors of war and becomes convinced that a photograph he found during combat brought him luck. These films represented a noticeable shift in his career trajectory. No more teen musicals, no more high school dramas. These were grounded adult stories with heavier emotional themes and complex character work. For The Lucky One, Zac committed fully to the physical transformation required. He trained intensively with real Navy SEALs, learning their discipline and mindset. He packed on approximately 20 pounds of solid muscle, transforming from the slim Disney kid into a more physically imposing and mature presence. The training was absolutely grueling, pushing his body to new limits. The dedication was absolute and unwavering. He poured genuine emotion and discipline into his performances, taking risks he had never taken before in his career. But Hollywood did not reward him for the effort. Despite pouring his heart into these roles, despite the physical transformation and emotional vulnerability, the recognition he received came not from the prestigious Oscars or Golden Globes, but from the Teen Choice Awards voted on by children and teenagers. He won multiple awards for The Lucky One, but they were essentially the same awards he had been winning since High School Musical. The industry's message was devastatingly clear: we still see you as the teen heartthrob, nothing more. You cannot escape what we have decided you are. Over time, something fundamental shifted in Zac's approach and mindset. If the industry would not recognize his acting skills, if they refused to see him as a serious performer, perhaps his appearance could open different doors. Perhaps the body could become the new currency. The attention his physical transformation received for the lucky one had not gone unnoticed by casting directors and producers. The muscles, the more mature image, the shirtless scenes that had audiences talking. Maybe this was the path forward, the only path available to him. Selling the body. What followed was a deliberate series of roles where Zac's body became the primary, sometimes only, selling point. In The Paperboy, his character Jack used physical appeal to create sexual tension with Nicole Kidman's character Charlotte. He spent much of the film shirtless, drenched in rain or sweat, the camera lingering on his physique with deliberate, almost obsessive focus. The cinematography treated his body like a landscape to be explored, examined, consumed. A review by The Guardian captured the uncomfortable reality perfectly, noting that Efron was cast first and foremost as an object of beauty, exploited by the camera in ways typically reserved for women in hard-boiled genre films. The observation was astute and deeply uncomfortable. At one point in the film, he strips down to white briefs to dance with a fully clothed Kidman in the rain, the scene designed purely for visual appeal rather than narrative purpose. That awkward moment continued the exploitative trend. Zac teamed up with Miles Teller and Michael B. Jordan to play three friends, navigating casual relationships and making a pact to avoid commitment. Shirtless scenes dominated the marketing campaign. Reviews could not ignore the glaring focus on his body, with one critic noting that nearly all of Efron was on display. During an appearance on Ellen, the conversation immediately turned to how much skin he showed in the movie. Clips of him in compromising positions were played for audience laughter and applause. His body had become entertainment, a punchline, a commodity. At the 2014 MeTV Movie Awards, Zac was nominated for Best Shirtless Performance, a category that reduced acting to mere physical display. He made a playful deal with fans on Twitter ahead of the event, promising that if he beat Thor, he would accept the award shirtless on stage. When he won, singer Rita Ora walked up behind him during his acceptance speech and, without warning, pulled his shirt off in front of the cameras and live audience. The moment was captured, shared, and replayed endlessly across media platforms. Pictures and videos circulated for days. Zac had become the guy everyone wanted to look at, the object rather than the subject, and nothing more. The pattern continued with Neighbors, an R-rated comedy where Zac played Teddy Sanders, a frat leader full of charm and swagger engaged in an escalating war with his new neighbors. While the film gave him more interesting material to work with and allowed him to showcase genuine comedic timing, his physique remained a major selling point. Shirtless scenes appeared regularly throughout the film. Jokes about his attractiveness filled the script. Commercially, the film was a massive success, grossing over $270 million worldwide, but it also permanently cemented his image as the hot, shirtless guy who could be relied upon to draw audiences based on appearance alone. Zac seemed to embrace it publicly, smiling through interviews and promotional tours. He pushed aside his early ambitions for dramatic roles and leaned fully into what was working commercially. But beneath the surface, beneath the manufactured smiles and practiced charm, cracks were forming in his foundation. The darkness beneath around this time, while his career appeared to be thriving, Zac began seriously struggling with substance abuse. Though he appeared successful on the surface, maintaining the image of the all-American golden boy, the pressures of fame were consuming him from the inside. Like many celebrities before him who found themselves trapped by their own success, he turned to alcohol and cocaine to cope with the relentless scrutiny and impossible expectations. What started as social use, a way to loosen up at parties and industry events, quickly spiraled into something he could not control. He missed days on set, unable to function. He showed up to shoots hungover, barely able to perform. The spiral deepened with frightening speed. Recognizing the danger and the very real possibility of destroying everything, Zac checked himself into rehab. He got clean, confronting his demons. But not long after, In a pattern tragically common among addicts, he relapsed. The public remained completely unaware as he kept everything carefully hidden, but friends and family grew increasingly worried about whether he would survive. He returned to rehab a second time and finally achieved sustained sobriety. 6 months later, he was spotted at a Lakers game wearing a 6-month sobriety chip, a quiet symbol of his battle. It was a dark period, one he barely survived, one that could have ended his career and his life. But the battle with substances was not over. It would simply take a different, more socially acceptable form. After the success of Neighbors, Zac starred in Dirty Grandpa alongside Robert De Niro, a film that represented a new low in his career. The film was filled with shirtless workout scenes, beach sequences, and party montages that felt increasingly desperate. Despite his character supposedly being the uptight, nerdy type, his shirt came off at every conceivable opportunity. The film flopped catastrophically, earning just a 10% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics described it as one of the worst movies they had ever seen, questioning how actors of De Niro and Efron's caliber had agreed to participate. By this point, even fans were noticing the depressing pattern. Zac was becoming a caricature of himself, hired repeatedly to flex and remove his shirt rather than act. The situation reached its absolute breaking point with Baywatch, a film that would nearly destroy him. The price of perfection in Baywatch, Zac played Matt Brody, a disgraced Olympian locked in a constant competition with Dwayne Johnson's character. For nearly half the film, they engaged in over-the-top strength challenges, each trying to prove physical dominance in increasingly absurd scenarios. Zac's body in the film was absolutely shredded, surpassing anything audiences had seen from him before. Every muscle was defined, every vein visible. He looked less like a human being and more like a sculpture carved from marble. To achieve that look, Zac put his body through absolute hell. Intense training sessions that pushed him to the brink of injury. Strict diet with no variation or pleasure. Clean fish or meat with sweet potatoes, repeated endlessly without deviation. He claimed he remained in ketosis throughout the entire filming process, his body burning fat at an unsustainable rate. The results were undeniable and shocking. He looked superhuman, like a comic book character brought to life. But the cost was severe and lasting. Years later, in a moment of brutal honesty, Zac admitted the disturbing truth. He had been taking diuretics to stay that lean, powerful drugs that reduce water retention to enhance muscle definition and create that shrink-wrapped appearance. The side effects were brutal and terrifying. He battled severe insomnia, unable to sleep for days. He slipped into depression, losing interest in everything. His body chemistry was fundamentally disrupted. It took 6 months after stopping the drugs just to begin feeling normal again. 6 months of recovery from a transformation that lasted weeks on screen. In an interview on Hot Ones, he opened up about the experience with genuine vulnerability, admitting he never wanted to be in that kind of shape again. The obsession with perfection, with being that lean, had become stupid and dangerous. He was worrying about water under his skin affecting his six-pack definition. It was not real, he said. It was not sustainable or healthy. The irony was crushing and almost poetic. Even after transforming himself into a physical specimen that defied natural limits, Baywatch did not perform well commercially. Critics destroyed it mercilessly. Zac was nominated for a Razzie Award for Worst Actor. The toll on his health had been immense, potentially permanent, and the payoff was non-existent. The transformation in April 2021, Zac appeared in a Facebook Earth Day special alongside Bill Nye the Science Guy. Fans watching at home immediately noticed something was wrong, something deeply unsettling. His face looked different in ways that were difficult to articulate but impossible to ignore. His jawline was thicker, more squared off, unnaturally defined in a way that seemed almost cartoonish. His face appeared puffy and bloated in ways it never had before. Even during his bulkier roles, the proportions seemed off, uncanny wrong. Within hours, the internet erupted into absolute chaos. Social media platforms exploded with speculation and concern. Memes spread like wildfire comparing him to handsome Squidward from SpongeBob. Others said he resembled Lord Farquaad from Shrek. Some compared him to The Weeknd's exaggerated plastic surgery look in the Save Your Tears music video. The comparisons were harsh and relentless. Speculation ran completely rampant. The most popular theory, repeated across countless platforms, plastic surgery gone wrong. Zac offered no explanation in the immediate aftermath. Just silence. Complete radio silence. The speculation only grew louder in the vacuum. Headlines dominated search results whenever his name was typed. Articles dissecting his appearance appeared in major publications. Even his mother reportedly called him, concerned, to ask if he had undergone surgery. The public suspicion was not baseless or cruel. Zac had a well-documented history of pushing his body to dangerous extremes for roles, so the idea that he might have turned to cosmetic enhancements to maintain his career did not seem far-fetched. It seemed like the logical next step. More than a year later, after the speculation had become deafening, Zac finally addressed the rumors directly in an interview with Men's Health magazine. According to him, the change had nothing to do with plastic surgery. In 2013, he had been running through his house in socks, slipped on the floor, and smashed his chin violently on the granite corner of a fountain. He blacked out from the impact. When he came to, his chin bone was literally hanging off his face, a gruesome injury. Doctors wired his jaw shut for 6 weeks while it healed. He survived on a liquid diet, unable to chew. The Iron Claw theory. To play professional wrestler Kevin Von Erich in the Iron Claw, Zac underwent perhaps his most dramatic physical transformation yet, one that raised even more questions. He packed on more muscle than ever before in his career. His chest was noticeably thicker, his shoulders impossibly broader. His arms looked like they belonged to someone who lived in the gym 24 hours a day. His entire frame changed completely, taking on an exaggerated, bulky appearance that seemed to defy natural limits. When the movie released, the conversation shifted immediately. The question was no longer just, what happened to his face? It became, how did he bulk up like that? The transformation seemed too extreme, too fast. Gaining lean muscle tissue becomes exponentially harder the more you already have. And Zac was not starting from scratch. He was already in excellent shape. The version of him in the Iron Claw looked almost superhuman, pushing past what seemed naturally achievable. They had seen this kind of transformation before in other celebrities. Conor McGregor, whose head and muscle mass ballooned seemingly overnight in 2021, triggering widespread steroid speculation. If you found this story compelling and thought-provoking, make sure to hit that subscribe button below. We need your support to keep creating deep dive documentaries that go beyond surface-level reporting. And here's a question for you. Do you think celebrities like Zac Efron are victims of Hollywood's obsessive image culture, or are they willing participants in their own typecasting and exploitation? Is there any way to escape the trap once you're caught in it? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's have a real discussion about this. Your perspective matters.